super heavy topic today. Just kidding.
How heavy?
Like Rosie O'Donnell?
We talked about it, right? What we were going to talk about?
Yeah,
Or did you forget?
I didn't forget. Did you forget?
No, I didn't.
I'm used to you saying the titles of what we're doing here.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, we were going to discuss I think the question was, has church ruined dating?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
So we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And on the clarity of everything on both spectrums, not a certain thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean on both spectrums?
Like both for a guy and for a girl kind of thing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not going to try to attack one side.
Why not?
No, yeah. Seriously,
Is that what we're doing?
we're incels, bro.
Yeah.
Kidding. Andy's married. I'm not a self-proclaimed incel. I just am by nature. And then, Stefan, what would you?
Sorry, boys.
It's kind of like a gray area because there is somebody I'm talking to, but it's like, I don't know if it's like official right now. So, because we've only hung out a few times. So.
Well, that's still exciting. Wherever it goes is wherever it goes.
She's
dude.
my backpack on the back of my motorcycle. So,
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you clarified.
It's not an actual girl. It's actually just a backpack.
it's a big guy named Tyrone.
We're going to move on. All right, so let's start.
Yeah.
With a short answer, do you guys think that church has ruined dating, and why not? Who wants to go first? Andy, you got pointed to.
Oh, okay.
You want to go first?
I would say yes, it has ruined it. Like short and sweet to the point. I guess the things that can back it up is like, I mean, I've had experiences before I got married where it's just like there was a certain amount of expectations. There were certain things that were not working out for either person, myself or them. And there's just, I don't know, it just felt like it didn't feel like a relationship. It felt sometimes like a job.
What do you mean expectations?
Well, it's like, I mean, for starters, like a guy is taught, like in a biblical standpoint, like the woman is supposed to serve the guy and do all of these things. Or like, for example, like the guy should lead and all of this stuff, which I think, yes, the guy should lead. But like, there's a higher set of expectation that was put upon that. Like the guy should always be on top of everything and charge.
So there's no
all.
nuance.
Yeah, pretty much, basically. I couldn't think of the word. And then on the other side, for women, it's like they're expected to be led to be, kind of like what's the word I'm thinking?
The caretaker,
the caretaker, and also to be
a support.
to be a support kind of thing. And I mean, I can agree with that too. But it's like there's things that have been taught where it's like it just, like I said, it feels like more like a job rather than a relationship spectrum sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also is like, I feel like, because I'm not married, so I really can only speak from the outside. I feel like it should be more natural. Like if a guy in the relationship has to say, I'm the leader of this relationship, it's like, he's not.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, it needs to be taught how to like,
It's got to work 50-50 like you're a team. It's got to be like a team effort.
But if the guy is going to lead in the relationship, like he has to like, I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of what the word is. He has to portray that naturally without saying that he's the
like coming off as like this, I don't know, like macho man who thinks that he's like, if he's got to prove a point, I guess.
Right. If he has to prove anything to anybody, then it's like you're not really a leader versus like, because you all know the people who like walk into a room and it's like their presence there. It's like you just know they're a leader.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus like the guy who has to walk in and be like, all right, I'm in charge here.
I'm in charge. You're not. Like that kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, yeah, it definitely, yeah. There's so many things that, I mean, we can, as we talk about it, but there's just so many things that I feel like have caused like dating to be so much harder. And yeah, I don't know. I think in a way as we go along with it, I believe that there's just some things that we can learn out of all of this. And especially with people who are just now getting into relationships or getting out of relationships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say it definitely has affected relationships with the church community. From my standpoint of things, at least on how it's been portrayed by me is, and I'm just going to bring up this subject since it's kind of like the elephant in the room too of how a relationship goes is, typically when it comes to saving yourself for marriage, like women are taught, like you got to definitely like just wait for the right man. He's got to be with God, same level as you. And you're both trying to help each other grow in that aspect in the church community. And I mean, even guys are taught the same thing too, but I don't think it's as strict or strictly like talked about more because with women, I think they're more of like a sacred kind of virginity at that point when it comes to like marriage and, having a family and all that other stuff versus guys like, and I mean, you can kind of go like with just dating in general at that point is if you have a guy that's sleeping around with a lot of women, like he's really not going to get frowned upon. But if you got a girl that's sleeping around with a bunch of guys, then she's like judged upon. And so with how strict the church is with saving yourself for marriage, I think in a way, and again, at least how it came off for me with my last like real relationship I had was that it's restriction. And so then when you're restricted for your whole life, pretty much, it gets to that point where then, all right, now I have a boyfriend or, now I have a girlfriend and you really just like, it's almost you're falling into that temptation. It's a lot harder to, I can't think of the word for it. I don't know why I can't think. None of us can think of words today. But like,
it's because this heat's got us tired.
Probably.
It's very hot and humid in the Midwest, so give us a break.
Yeah. I think it's like, 87 degrees out right now?
Yeah, but it's been almost 100 the past week.
That's true.
Which I've enjoyed. But I know you guys don't like
the humidity is the worst part. The heat I can tolerate, even if that was at 100 degrees. I'm like, okay, it's really hot out, but it's like at least it's not humid. Where like the air is thick.
That's a classic Midwestern saying: it's not the heat, it's the humidity.
It is. It's the same thing with like, man, I can't wait till like this heat goes away, and then it snows, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait till the snow goes away. But going back is like, so. After you've been in that restricted mindset that the church has portrayed on saving yourself for marriage, it gets to that point then where because you've held back for so long, the temptation is stronger and stronger and you have less willpower to hold back, which then...
So then what's the right way to go about it? Because we should be aiming to save ourselves for marriage.
I mean, without getting too like... into it, I guess you could say, but getting into it is there are things you can do that like won't push that boundary, I would say, but like obviously not, sleeping in the same bed doing like the Sims 4 woohoo and everything like, not doing that. But like even too, like there are things.
So you're saying like, yeah, you can make out, but it's crossing into the danger zone.
You would both have to know, like, okay, this is the limit, and if either one of us starts getting that temptation, like immediately cut it off. Yeah.
Which isn't always easy.
Yeah.
It is not always easy, believe me. I've been there a few times and it's been rough. But I will, again, as just an example, with my previous last real relationship that I had is I was with this girl for over a year and she lived in a restricted Christian household, but she helped out the church that we were at. And, she knew her morals and values and I knew my morals and values and we helped each other grow. We were going to church more and talking about things a lot more. Communication was really good, including about that subject about saving yourself towards marriage at that point.
Yeah.
And we had moments where, we were, making out and stuff and things were getting a little heated.
Whoa.
But we both, even though we really wanted to go further, because at that point I had already put a ring on it and we were just waiting to get married.
So where's the harm?
So where's the harm at that point? Exactly. Yeah. And then, but we both had that where we were like, okay, no, we're doing this the right way because this is how we were taught.
Yeah.
And it was hard. That temptation was right because the person's right in front of you at that point, and they want you just like you want them. But if you have enough willpower at that point, you truly believe that God's there to help you walk through this, and he knows that person is in your life for the right reason and they're there to help you, then that temptation almost means nothing at that point. You can move on and go forward with it. But again, with how strict the churches are being with that, and even in scripture it says that, when you go outside of church, that's pretty much like God saying, like, all right, I taught you what you're supposed to do. Now, are you going to follow that and represent me, or are you going to give in to temptation and sin at that point?
Yeah. So then how should churches go about it? Because they should teach that we should wait till marriage.
Yeah.
But
I think they shouldn't be as maybe contradicting as this sounds, and, you know, because again, in scripture, you say save yourself till marriage. I think they should not be like directly attacking that like frequently after frequent, you know, preaches and stuff, where, you know, then, you know, because they have women's Bible groups just like they have men's Bible groups, and I'm sure they talk about obviously like different things here and there, but like I feel like in a normal sermon where everybody's together, you know, male, female, you know, whoever, they all are in that group, so they all have an understanding. But maybe I think part of it's too is where if you do have the men's Bible group and you have the women's Bible group, they could be really conflicting against that whole touchy subject too, because there might be a girl in there that's, you know, a really good representative of the church in the women's Bible group, and she's slamming the hammer down on that whole save yourself till marriage. And so you get in that mindset that like, I got to save myself, but then you also are human. So you have all the chemicals and hormones and stuff. And then there you go. If you're just strict on that and you build up that tension at that point, and then you just, it's going to give in and it's going to end in total like chaos at that point.
Yeah. I mean, people should obviously be taught to flee from sexual sin because that's what the Bible says. But I think that in like, don't interrupt me.
Don't interrupt. This is my
You should have just been like, shut up.
Shut up.
Like men's groups,
Yeah.
they should be teaching men that, like, for one, it's wrong to fall into that because it is. But how do you stay away from it? And then teach them how, like, to really follow their purpose and their passion. Because I've noticed with me, when I'm, I don't want to say the word busy because I still find times to rest.
You're occupied.
Occupied. When I'm like practicing or working out or any of those things, I have less of a desire to fall into that temptation.
Yeah. Right. Your mind is in a different place at that point because you're so focused on what your task is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Like for you, like if it's playing bass or if it's going on a walk even at that point.
Yeah.
Your mind is then able to be clear of those thoughts and everything.
I think, yeah. So I think if more of that was taught versus, hey, just don't do this and this is why it's bad, or like, because there is some science behind if you sleep with more people, you're gonna, it's gonna be harder to be in a relationship down the line, which is true. But instead of just focusing on like why not to do it, they should focus on how not to do it.
Right.
I don't know what they teach in women's groups because I don't know, like, I know women can have passions and drive, but it's not as much as men.
I know
normally.
with my sister, she was in a what?
I don't know. Andy, what was funny?
No, it's so funny that you bring up the idea of drive because it's something that I think we don't pay attention to as much. I know you say that like men have a higher drive than women do, but you'd be surprised. There are.
I wasn't talking about sex drive in that context. I was talking about
my
like
bad.
The drive to
a drive for like ambition.
Right,
Yeah.
to
But we'll get to that because
Okay.
I definitely know.
yeah. Believe me, I think all three of us know.
Yeah. So
Holy
anyway,
schmoly.
what were you gonna say?
Yeah, so my sister, she was in a women's Bible group for a few years, and she would just then go to like the next one with whatever church that she was going with, because she was like dating different guys and they all went to church. Like that's the one thing I will give her is that she does find guys that are strongly in, you know, to Christ, and that they're going to help each other grow and they're going to help each other prosper and get through the rough times and all that. I'll give her props for that. But then In the women's Bible groups, I mean, it's not a whole lot of info that I know, but like enough to where she's talked about it a little bit. And she says they did go over the fact of save yourself of marriage almost several occasions. And it was like, even if the subject that they were talking about, like if it's like, like how to feel the embodiment of Christ as a woman kind of thing. And then it would go into a totally different, like just not even 2 seconds later, be like, save yourself for marriage. That is the important thing. And she was like, with that particular women's Bible group, she was like, this is just way too, like, there's no reason to bring that up at that point.
Right.
So I feel like to a degree, it is partially the person preaching that's fault because of the way that they present it or the way maybe they got a different mindset. Like, you know, some people get so hurt in the past and they feel so foolish that they didn't save themselves or something happened. So they emphasize it for other women to be like, hey, or even guys in that matter, for some men's Bible groups too, that can happen. Where they're like, you need to save yourself for marriage because they're not going to admit that maybe they made the mistake on falling for that. Yeah. But they are like, just going to say like, it's important and this will ruin your life if you don't do it. So then you get that fear mindset at that point. And then that is like to scare them into not doing it, you know, that kind of thing. Which that can be, that's a pretty bad tactic, as is like a fear tactic to get them to get that implanted in their head. Yeah. So, and again, that can go for guys and women at that point.
Yeah, see, I agree, but I'm also torn on that subject because, like I said, it's important that that gets taught.
Yeah, but just don't consistently push it at that point, I guess you could say.
It's
maybe.
funny. It's funny for me when you say like that you feel like it's been a message that's been like consistently.
It's been like implanted in people's heads consistently.
I think for me, how I've experienced it, sometimes it's like, I feel like in some sermons, when it comes to those topics, they beat around the bush around it. They don't give
instead of going straight to the point.
They don't give full explanation to everything. Like, they're like, save yourself for marriage, or like, hey, this is wrong, or this is the way that you should do it. But it's like a lot of the time, it's almost like it's still taboo in the church world. You know what I mean? And so I think that also is the one thing that creates the fear, because it's like, yeah, maybe we're getting information, but there's still some things that we're not.
Right. Like there's pieces of the puzzle that are missing.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. It's like, I think as I go about it now, I know now what I know, but it took the experiences, you know, of what I've gone through to figure that out.
But again, though, look where it's brought you today too, even at that point. Now you're married. And I mean, I haven't really met your wife at this point that much. Great. But yeah, I'm sure she's great. You know, you guys have helped each other grow. You guys work as a team, and so far everything's going pretty good. Because you've been married for how long now? Like a year or two?
2 years.
2 years. Yeah. So
feels like 3.
That's like and that's even a good thing too. At that point, is if you're like, man, it's been so short, like that we've been married, but it's like it's felt longer.
Yeah.
That to me seems like a really good, healthy relationship at that point. Because if it feels longer, then it's like your connection at that point. Like from all your experiences and her experiences. Then the journey that you guys were brought together. Now is this moment.
Yeah. But that's just my thing too, is I feel like it's just not something that I just feel like I haven't been told everything. And I feel like that's where
what do you mean not told everything? Well, not told everything about what?
Well, not told. I think if I can go back to like some of the sermons we went through at like Access, when we used to go to Access. Yeah. Like I understand when we had, do you remember when we did like the questionnaire thing? Like they put up questions in the screen and whatnot, like of all the people that could ask. But it's like when it came to certain types of topics within everything, they were like, we don't know how to answer that for you, or like we can't answer that for you. Or
okay.
You know what I mean? Because it's like some people actually want to know a certain amount of something.
It's like a touchy subject maybe to some people. And so they're like, we don't know how to really
it's touchy, or it's just like we don't know.
It's like that gray area at that point.
Yeah. You know
So,
what I mean?
like, yeah, but what would be considered a gray area question? I mean, you don't have to give an exact one, but like,
Right.
what's something that would be a gray area question that somebody might not know how to answer?
Well, for starters, I think one of the questions that, if I remember, that was very difficult to answer, and it was with one of the past, like the older, like the actual one of the pastors, and it was like regarding like, if I do this, but I want to get this far, but is it like a bad thing if I like just touch the line, basically, or not even cross the line,
But you go near
but I'm
it.
there. You know what I mean?
See, I feel like if I'm a pastor, I'm going to say, no, it's not okay.
Yeah.
If I'm a pastor, I'm never going to advocate for making
I
out
guess that's a
before
bad
marriage.
example too, but like I don't want to ask. I don't even remember the question fully, but I
Right.
don't want to ask the question that was asked because I remember it was like, why would you ask that? Or like,
Yeah, like it's
yeah.
a pretty obvious answer, and then the pastor can't answer it. And then so now it's like, so it's really like there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
It's either like, oh, we don't know how to talk about this, or we're just going to shove it down until it just becomes too much.
Yeah. Like I still think it's crazy because as we're taught these things, and I mean it's great because we count it as a testimony in the end, right? Like these are victories, or these are things that like, hey, this is how we learned it and we want to teach it. But it's like, even though we're taught through scripture and through all of our sermons and all that stuff with services at church, people still fail, and people are still like, well, I don't want to date because of this, or I am having trouble dating anybody because they're not doing this for me, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what do you mean they're not doing this for me?
So
Maybe it's just even finding somebody at that point. Like, okay, I've been abstinent this whole time, kind of thing, because that's what I've been taught. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm like 55 and I still haven't found somebody because God says He's going to bring you some, like that.
Yeah.
Like I've done all this and you're not giving me anything. So why am I going to listen to the sermon if I'm not going to get anything out of it, even though I'm doing the right thing?
Well, and that's the thing about America is God does not promise people marriage.
No.
Right. Yeah.
You're not born into Christianity as a man worthy of being a partner. You kind of have to build that in one way or another.
But you're like, it's kind of too like, you get where I'm coming from though, is it's like, you're taught all these teachings from God, and then in a way, some people get a mindset of like, well, if I do this, then I'm definitely going to get it. Don't watch pornography or you're not going to get, a woman. But then it's like,
even though all the people that watch it are the ones that are getting married.
Right. Literally. Or they're just famous stars at that point, but
What?
I was going to say corn stars, but
We're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying like, no, that's how,
No, we're not censoring. You can say
Okay,
porn.
okay.
He already said it.
okay. So,
we're
I
not-
didn't even know he said it. I don't know when.
Yeah,
he
we're
said
not
it.
doing the stupid corn thing. We're saying I can't.
That's
We're
fair,
myself.
fair.
We are a legitimate.
So yeah, but like no, so those people there, they'll sit there like what he was saying is, you can commit all these sins and then like next thing you know, you're a porn star and you're living the best life of your life. You got like 3 Lambos, whatever, and then you get a guy who's been following step by step of the Bible of how to have like maybe focus on themselves.
He's the one struggling.
And he's the one struggling. But it does also say that just because you follow God doesn't mean that it's going to be a cakewalk at that point.
Right.
You're going to be tested and tempted with trials of sin
The
at
path
that
is
point.
long and narrow, as it says.
So yeah, I mean, like even too, if like let's say for example, you're following the path of Christ at that point, you're doing everything, you're staying abstinent, you're not falling into the temptation of pornography, you're doing everything you can.
Yeah.
And then you get this could be the first trial. You get a girl that randomly or a guy that just pops into your life. And you're like, holy crap, like this is amazing. Like, but and then they're following Christ and they're doing their best. And then all of a sudden, God takes that away from you. And then it's like, so He can take things away to teach you a lesson about things. So whether in that first relationship that you ever got yourself into, let's say you guys didn't know how to communicate, or you guys didn't know how to remain abstinent or something like that, and you moved way too quick into the relationship, He'll take that away from you, and then He'll give you time to focus on that again, like a reset. And then when the time is right, and He knows, because He knows when everything and how everything's going to happen, then He'll bring you another person in your life.
Yeah.
And even too, it doesn't even have to be a relationship, like, marriage or whatnot. It could be even a friendship at that point too.
Right.
Yeah.
You could be horrible with friends, and then like you lose a friend, and then a new one comes along, and then, okay, well, I messed up on this with me internally, but God gave me this new person. So I'm not going to mess that up again. But again, as long if stuff keeps happening, God's going to keep testing you at that point. He's going to keep putting you through trials. And then again, once he knows and you finally get it, regardless of how old you are, because again, you could be in your 30s, 50s, whatever, and that right person comes into your life, or the things that you were asking for come into your life, then it'll prosper you at the end.
Right.
So even with you, with your marriages, like you've been through a couple relationships and stuff, and
Oh boy.
and then now here
More
you
than a
are.
couple.
You know what I mean? So God's brought you your wife, and you guys are prospering.
Yeah.
So I would say that's a win, because
Yeah.
you had to go through trials after trials after trials. Same with
Yeah.
you. I mean, me and you are both single right now, but we've been put to our trials,
You heard it here first,
of
ladies.
women. Just saying. Yeah, heard it here first. Call me. But yeah, we've been put through our trials, and now I feel right now, at least in this predicament with me, that I'm being put through a trial with this particular woman. And so am I going to make the same mistakes that I may have? Like, because
Yes.
nobody's perfect.
You are.
But you know what I mean? Like,
Kidding.
no.
Well,
Caleb.
let's say it in a safer way is like you could.
Yeah.
You will.
Right.
But what are you going to learn, and how are you going to make it better? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So whether because again, nobody's perfect at that point.
Yeah.
So, and you got to work it,
Yeah.
again till you get it right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Side note, since we were talking about like if somebody became a porn star, say she turns her life around and becomes a Christian, is it wrong for the Christian guy to turn her down for that reason?
No. Well, yeah, no, in a way. I would say that one it's not a gray area. It's like it literally is like a yes and no. Like, yeah, he has the right, because at that point the temptation could come back in her life.
Yeah.
If she's doing
Or
that.
it springs temptation to him.
Or it springs temptation to him, because he could have gone through the same thing too.
But also, even though she's been made new in Christ,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he still doesn't need to be with somebody who lived that life.
Right.
Like there is
Yeah.
consequences to your sin.
Yep.
And that is one problem I think that the church shies away, especially when it comes to like sexual sin. Like guy or girl, if you sleep with 30 people,
Right.
it's going to be pretty hard to find a relationship, because not a lot of people are going to want to be with somebody who was with that many people.
Right.
There's
But there's also people too that, like, even if a girl is virgin or a guy is virgin, they're not going to want to be with them because they have no experience either. So
Yeah.
that's the other part too.
Because then again, there's the
It is
idea
weird
that I
that
talk
that-
about with expectations.
Yeah,
you know what I
because
mean?
Yeah.
in that aspect of life too, it's like that's not really, because we're all born virgins. We all did not like have sex obviously right away at that point. Like everybody starts off virgins. So why are you going to make a decision about maybe this person could be perfect for you and they're virgin, and then but you have the hots for like Bambino, who's been with like 50 women, and but it's because he's experienced at that point. And then same thing with a guy. You could have it where you get this like girl that God could put right in front of you that's virgin, and she's perfect, everything that you could ask for, but then you get Jennifer Lopez over here, who's been with like 60 guys or something, and and then you're going to go for her because she's experienced at that point. So then there's another trial right there. So are you going to go for looks, or are you going to go for the fact that at least the person has enough morals at that point and followed Christ to save themselves at that point?
Yeah, I feel like the whole like chasing the experience people is like a very red pill thing.
Right. Like, I mean,
Not much of a.
I'll say this, through the relationships that I've been through, like, yes, it does help if they've had experience, obviously not to like, 30 people, but like if they've at least had a little bit of experience, yes, it helps. But again, I dated and was engaged to a virgin woman, and I didn't care at that point because I respected her values. She was following the steps through Christ at that point, and she and I had enough respect for each other. And yeah, I was experienced. I had one other relationship and I get messed up. I was in a friends with benefits for like 4 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's gross.
It was. And it was the first and only time I'll do it because it was absolutely disgusting. But again, we're all young and we all make mistakes at that point.
Well,
you know?
you do.
So at that point, though, it's like, so why would it matter if this girl has had experiences? Because, yeah, there was another girl, believe it or not, at that time that had experience that I was interested in. But then as soon as my now ex-fiance was in the picture and I first met her, and she told me that she was virgin and I was basically her first boyfriend. She only went on one date and it went like the same day it ended because the guy was only after one thing and he didn't care that she was virgin and that she had tattoos and whatever else. But you get that person that sees past that. And then you're good to go. You know, it's like, because then that again is another trial that God's putting you through is like, okay, they're not experienced. This is all new to them. Can you help them prosper? Like they can help you prosper at that point.
Yeah, because when you're married, you learn what each other likes. So experience really doesn't matter.
Because if you just jump straight into sex in a relationship, it's not a relationship.
And you're going to overlook red flags.
Exactly. Because, yeah, they got a smoking bod. But they could literally be a serial killer, like, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Stefan, you always go for like the extremes.
No, but you know what I mean.
You say the most wild.
I'm just saying that.
Smoking hot buds.
But it's true.
Lambos.
Or she could be a serial killer.
Well, because think about it, though, because we've already established that, you know, like how women look through guys, like they can still look at a guy for looks, but they look at them through a different. They have more of the emotional side of things, where guys are more visual. So yeah, when I say hot bods, it's like, okay, the guy is looking at hot bods, or even a woman can look at hot bods. But then you get also the guy that looks at the emotional side of things. Maybe he's less attracted to what you look like, and you look like the Pillsbury Doughboy, but you're perfect in every way, kind of thing.
Oh, that's another thing that I wanted. That's a great segue to the next section is...
Does size matter? Not in that way.
To Morgan and Morgan, the law firm, it does. They're the biggest law firm. But that's not what I was going with.
Yeah.
We're talking about what was it? Oh, physical attraction.
Yeah.
I think that the church dumbs that down. I think it's more important than they say it is, but I don't think it's everything.
Yeah, because they don't want to, because now, especially with today, like everybody's sensitive. Because you don't want to sit there and be like, yeah, you know, you over there, the 600-pound life T-shirt on that weighs 600 pounds. Like, again, you may or may not find somebody. You may or may not find somebody because you're big. But this guy over here, chiseled chin and everything, looking like the Crimson Chin, he's perfect, and he will find a Christian woman.
I don't think I've ever heard any pastor say that.
But you know what I mean? Is like they don't really go about. They beat around the bush.
Yeah, nobody's gonna say that like that because. First of all, that might be a little rude, but to lie to people and say that
it shouldn't matter.
Looks don't matter is you're doing them a disservice.
Right, because it really, to a degree, it does matter.
Yes. Well, because if I'm talking to a girl and she's awesome and she's got a great personality, but she's not attractive, she's going to be my friend. Right. And only my friend.
Right. And then same thing with girls right now too, is like, you know, you could have like a guy that makes you laugh and like, you know, they're there for you and everything. But if they're really big or they just don't take care of themselves kind of thing. I wasn't extreme. I said it's just real big. But if they're really big or they look gross, like, you know, then they're going to be in the friend zone indefinitely at that point.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's dumbed down, but it's hard because it seems like people always want to go to extremes. So then now they're saying, well, looks don't matter at all. But it's like you have to find that in between of, they matter, but they shouldn't be everything.
Yeah, right. It shouldn't be like your main like.
Yeah, because somebody can be really good looking, but again, have some major red flags.
Right.
Like maybe she's a serial killer or something.
Yeah, maybe she will be. I don't know. That really is how it pretty much is summed up too. And I don't think, again, that is a touched up subject at churches. They just kind of beat around the bush with it. And
Yeah, it's not realistic. And it makes people feel bad because then you're like, well, I don't really like her. And it's like, well, why don't you like her? And it's like,
well, she's got a dimple on her cheek or something like that. And it's like, okay, everybody else does. So do you. So why are you judging?
I don't have dimples.
I don't either.
I'll say this too from personal like experiences. I used to be the guy in my early 20s that I would basically like the kind of girl that I would want and I'd only look for was blonde, had like a really good toned body, whatnot.
So basic.
And right, I know. And not a serial killer either. But that's what I would be looking for because it was like I don't care if they're a red flag or not, and you know I'm inexperienced at that point. I just want a good looking blonde woman and a little bit shorter than me and everything else. And then as the years went by, and again with the experience. The crunch was so satisfying in the mic. When it came down to that, so my first girlfriend, for example, really good looking girl. She had pretty much everything I wanted, but she had dyed hair. But I, at that point, didn't care because she was a good looking girl at that point. And after the crap that I will admit, I put myself through with her. And I am not the only one at fault, and she is not the only one at fault for why the relationship died at that point. But I learned after her, maybe I shouldn't have that kind of expectation because that taught me if you get a good-looking girl like that and you just focus on the looks, like a good figure eight and everything, you're going to probably end up like hurting her or hurting yourself at the end of the day. Or both. Yeah. And then that's when, again, my ex-fiance came around at the time. And yeah, she wasn't like the best looking girl.
Wow.
I'm not. Here's the thing. Let me back that up. It's not as harsh as what I'm trying to make it say. I'm very
filter for anything you're saying.
She wasn't to me though. Okay,
man,
here's the
we
thing.
need a bigger pop filter
the thing.
for your mic.
Here's the thing. So let me backtrack on that because that did sound really bad. So
there's still some hurt feelings here. That's why.
No.
She's not going to listen to this.
No.
So
She's
we're fine, but
no. I've had no contact with her for such a long time. But to me at first, when I looked at the comparison, I guess between my first girlfriend and her, I'm like, she is not as like anything remotely comparable to like as good as the first one, and.
that's still not.
I know
better.
it. I know it's not. I'm trying to say it because I'm really bad at wording, and I don't mean it in the way that I'm
Maybe we
saying.
should just skip this.
No,
one.
we're not. We're doing it. They're no longer in my life. So, and again, they're not going to hear the
I understand
podcast.
that, but
no. But here, let me. Again, I apologize to the.
I'm out of words.
I apologize to the audience at hand. I don't mean it as brutally as it may come off.
You're about to be a hated.
It's just. I know I am. It's the only way that I
do
can
not bring this guy back.
It's the only way that I can word it in my brain and have it translate out here, but I can kind of back up some things. So
at this point, it's the sugar coating that's more hurtful.
I know it is.
She ugly, bro. You just did it.
I mean,
not really. Not
she,
really.
like but the thing is this though. So I looked at myself at that point, and I was a bigger guy. Like I wasn't 300 pounds and whatnot, but I was getting close to that. I was like maybe 280 or something. But I looked at it as I'm like, so that's when I think God was bringing me that teaching of, okay, so it shouldn't matter what the girl looks like. Like, yeah, she doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10 like the last one, but she could be like an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10, whatever. But her morals are what matters at that point. Is what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
I'm very bad at wording because my brain just kind of just spits out whatever it's thinking.
Yeah.
So
you picked the worst path.
I know
you really did.
I know
to get there.
I know I did.
So
I apologize to the audience. Well,
it's like trying to rock climb up Mount Everest instead of going up the trail. That's what you did.
I know. But to me, in my eyes at that point, I knew that she was the most beautiful girl. In my eyes, that's what mattered. I didn't care about anything else. You know, anybody could come in with like crooked teeth, whatever. You know, maybe they have a bald spot on their head, something. I don't know.
How do you come up with
I don't know. But again,
These are
it's
things
just
that Stefan worries about, by the way, everyone.
Yeah. But if they honestly, like, to me, have that quality of they have their morals in line. They have a set path. They're willing to help me grow like I'm willing to help them grow. I would rather have them in my life than you missed the shot, or what is it? You miss the shots you don't take at that point. So if God's bringing me this person, yeah, they may not be everything that my ideal man brain thinks of, but she's there for a reason at that point.
Right.
And even with my last girlfriend that I had, she was, and again, this one I actually am true on. She was a bigger set girl. But at that time, again, she had
one after the next.
It is. But I'm just saying she was a bigger set girl, but she also had her morals in line. Me and her had been through the same kind of experiences at that point, and we both had that same mindset of things. And I looked at myself and was like, who am I to judge if I'm still a bigger guy and she's a bigger girl? Why is it, if she is coming again into my life at that point, why am I going to turn that down because she's bigger? You know, I have no room to judge because I'm a bigger guy at that point.
Would you have room to judge if you weren't a bigger guy?
I mean, as long as the cinnamon roll twister thing at the store, could pop properly, but I don't know where I was going with that, so we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get where I'm saying is, like, you can't judge others at that point if you can't look at yourself and be like, what's wrong with me? Because if you have that self,
Next time, lead with that.
yeah.
And then end with that too.
Well, you could probably edit it to be like right at the disclaimer. And then
No,
clip it.
I'm leaving it in.
Yeah. This whole testimony of yours, it's all there.
But you guys understand where I'm going with it. Is you can't really just judge somebody else if you can't look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, well, I'm Mr. Perfect. And it's like, no, you're not.
Well,
you got
I
your
am. So
Oh, are you?
Yeah,
I mean, compared to me and you, he's the one that's married. So, I mean,
that's true. That is true.
I'm far from perfect, boys.
Hey.
But yeah, as far as like experiences go, that's yeah.
yeah.
I think overall, for me, I guess looks do matter, but yeah, they haven't always been like the main thing.
Yeah.
I never thought any girl I ever dated was bad looking. As Stefan might say, if I didn't think any of them were serial
Yeah, if
killers.
they come off like an exploded can of like cinnamon rolls.
Precisely. So I think I do think looks matter, but it shouldn't be the thing you lead on. It definitely, for me, it's obviously like the way they portray themselves to be.
Yeah.
I dated one girl that was very, very disorganized.
Oh,
Yeah, and for me, I'm a very organized person. I like being.
you're like OCD kind of thing.
I wouldn't say OCD, but yes.
Okay.
But like I'm the kind of guy that, like, I'm married now and I still do the laundry. I do both our laundry. I do mine and her and my wife's. But like this girl, like, leaving clothes everywhere, and like,
I feel like that's most girls, if I'm honest with you.
this one was by far the worst because everyone else I ever dated in my life, they were fine. But
Okay.
like there's just clothes everywhere, and like, how like the basic thing where like a girl would have like a full body mirror like attached to the
door or something.
yeah, to the door or whatever. Well, this thing is like tipped over and like leaning on the wall and doing all these other things, and like there's like paper plates on her desk and all this stuff from like food she ate. I'm
Oh
like,
gosh. Yeah.
so it was, for me, that's very hard. So I think for me, it's like what's more important is definitely like portrayal
Right.
of oneself.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
But again, going back to what Stefan says, who am I to judge? I mean, again, I'm a very clean person. I'm very organized. So, but I shouldn't judge.
And even too, through those experiences, it's like then you get taught that, like, yeah, I should not be judging them if I have my own flaws at that point. And then you'll be led onto the right path eventually.
Right.
Yeah. But no, it's I can't get over the things that you were saying about your exes, dude. It's so funny.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
like,
you know where you belong is the Eastern Orthodox Church. With the guys with no filter. That's where you need to start
but
going.
it makes it so much better though, but in a worse way and a positive way at the same time. It's just that's just how it comes
Yeah, you're
off.
definitely gonna have haters and lovers.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody's in between with you.
This is why I'm single, ladies.
Oh, they know.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, this guy.
All right, now we can talk about drive, the sex drive.
Yes. Okay.
Because I think that in church specifically, it's usually put on the guys who have the high sex drive.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of problems that come with that type of rhetoric because
then you're the one that make like the female's like the innocent one that's gonna she has the most control and she doesn't have that much drive. And then
so if boundaries are being broke, whose fault is it?
the man.
It's always the guy's fault. And then they can just decide to end the relationship because they're like, oh, he keeps breaking the boundaries, and they side with the women, and they never get told like, hey, you might be a problem in this scenario.
Like, are you sure you're not insinuating? Are you sure you're not doing anything that causes this?
Right.
Yeah,
Because everybody knows it takes two to tango at that point. So men are attracted to that physical attraction. And, you know, if your girl looks at you in a weird way with her dilated eyes and she's like gazing in.
Dude,
she's looking at you with them eyes and you're just like, I can't
No,
help
they're
it.
definitely dilated. You're correct.
Yeah.
It's just I would never have thought about that.
I also.
Yeah.
So
You
it's,
give us the full
it's
detail,
just like
dude.
so quippy that I can't.
like comprehend like how quick it was.
Yeah, it just like I don't know how your brain works faster than mine does. But then also with that, it's basically saying that women don't want it. So when you get married, you're basically his sex slave. Whenever he wants it, you have to give it to him. And it's just like,
Yeah.
women want it too.
Yeah.
They just need to be held more accountable, I think, because each relationship she's going to get in, if she's never told that boundaries being broke are also her fault, then nothing is ever
She's
going to
go on her merrily way. Like, I've done nothing wrong in my relationships. That's why they ended.
Yeah, and it's going to be like, I just keep finding all these bad guys.
They're
It's
all
like,
horny all the time. And it's just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
You're a woman.
I
That's
think-
what she's doing.
That's definitely a big issue for,
Yeah.
I think for, I will say for the beginning of the relationship with my wife, like we all fall short. So we've fallen short plenty of times in the relationship as we were dating. And as we were going through our marriage counseling, it was crazy because I felt like I was always the one being looked at when we were explaining these things. And it's like, well, Andy, what can you do to be better? I'm like, so I'm feeling like, well, I'm carrying both of the weight. Like it's not, it sometimes it didn't feel like a 2-person fault type of thing. It was more like, oh, it's me kind of thing. And so that made it very, very hard. And yeah, I can say that it makes it so difficult that the church decides to put it on one side more than anything. And then that is kind of something that ends up ruining the beginning of dating for a lot of people. Like that's why I'm saying too, like women have this expectation. Well, like if I date this guy, is this going to be a problem? Like, are we going to have situations where we just can't handle ourselves or
Right.
whatever?
Like we can't be around each
Like,
other
and-
for too long because then it'll bring that temptation in there.
Yeah.
what about like the way they dress?
That can definitely play a factor because if you get some skimpy
And I'm talking both sides.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
men can dress.
from the viewpoint of a man,
Yeah, there we go.
if you get a girl that comes in with a skimpy dress that her butt's hanging out and she's sitting there wearing a crop top where like under boob is showing and she's going into church and she's all like, I'm a great girl that believes in God.
Some of them dress that way in
They
church
do.
too.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. I've seen it. It's just so
And that's the thing though, is like, and then, okay, but then they're like, don't sexualize me and don't like give in to temptation. But then it's like, okay, then why are you hanging out with your butt, like from the bottom of your dress then? Literally protruding the fact of don't give in to temptation and don't sexualize me. It's like, don't be dressing like that then. I get it that guys need to have self-control. I'm not saying that they can't dress like that.
Right.
But guys do need to have self-control and women need to have self-control about how objectifying that they're portraying themselves at that point.
I think it's a both and situation.
Yeah, because
So
guys
it's
can
like-
wear like a skin tight T-shirt.
No,
and show
I'm
off their
saying
pecs
like
and
I'm saying
everything.
like yeah. Oh yeah. I'm just saying like yes, guys need to learn how to control themselves and also control their eyes. But if you're a woman and you're going to dress that way, you are going to attract the
Right.
guys who don't have self-control
Yep.
and the creepy ones
So you
because
are-
they're the ones that are looking for that.
Right. And then you can't get mad when they approach you or you let them in and stuff happens at that point.
Yeah, because there's always going to be creeper guys that are attracted to only your body.
At the
Exactly.
church?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You think you just walk into church and they're just sitting there and they're like, oh, yeah, praise God. And they're just not looking at the girl next door and she's sitting there wearing a crop top or whatever else. And she's like, you know, the typical lollipop thing. And then just like, yeah, no, I'm a good Christian girl. And then he's just going to be like, praise God. Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah,
Like,
so I think it's like
you can't be
and they need
judging.
to have a woman teach women how to dress instead of having like men, because it always comes off as like controlling or whatever. It's like, have a woman who's brave enough to tell them, hey,
Yeah, seriously.
maybe when you come to church, don't dress like you just came back from the club.
Right. Like, don't.
What are you doing? Like,
Right, like don't be like suit. You don't have to be like suit and tie, but like
Right.
just wear something
Slightly
casual.
more- yeah, a little more modest. would
Like
be-
this is fine. Like what we're wearing, like jersey, t-shirt.
Stefan, please do
pants.
not show up to church with a jersey on.
I can think of one guy at church that
Do you want me to show you what's underneath?
No. Oh my gosh.
Anxiety.
I can think of one guy at church that would really appreciate his jersey though.
I already got complimented on it when I was at the store getting the Arizona tees and stuff.
OH?
No, well, there too actually, but at our old church, our good friends at Res.
I can't think of.
I mean, but would you rather see like a jersey at church or see something that like I have daddy issues?
I know. Yeah.
But like, you get where I'm getting at though, is like, yeah, we're joking about the jersey, but like, would you rather see a jersey being worn praising God or something that says I have mommy issues?
Okay, Stefan.
Just
It's not like those are the only two options.
No, I know, but like
hey, what are you gonna wear to church? You have a jersey or I have mommy issues? Sure.
I think we need to go back to the whole monochromatic. Like everybody just needs to wear like skirts that go down to the ankles and men to full on suit and ties.
yeah, but then you get those guys with foot fetishes. So then are you just telling
Dude.
like women to like cover up everything at that point? I'm just because there are guys that do that. I'm just saying. It's 100% fact. There was a guy at Walmart the other day that was sitting there, and there was a girl wearing like Hey Dudes or something like that, and he's sitting there like in the line. I swear to God, he was sitting there just.
And you
eyeballing
know
it.
that he was just looking at her feet.
He
and
literally
his
was
feet.
looking at her feet, and she got creeped out, and so she had to move. So Walmart's
I
got
suppose
this, like,
it is Walmart.
right.
It is. I was gonna say it's Walmart.
Well, it's a petting zoo in there every day. You find a new animal,
Okay, back to the topic
Yes.
at hand.
And
Women have sex drive too.
yes,
Yes.
they
And-
do. And sometimes I feel like to a degree, I feel like they can definitely control it a lot better than a guy. I would think
I don't know,
to a degree.
because in
to a degree.
my
Oh, we're gonna get a Caleb testimony.
I'm not getting into like
Right.
maybe not specific situations, but in my experience with women in the church,
Mm-hmm.
they push the boundaries either the same, if not more, than I would.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if
But also,
I don't
that,
want to hear about how they have
Well,
more self control.
I would say though, here's the thing: is like it can tie back to the way that they were taught about saving themselves towards marriage, because they have that implemented in their head with either fear or whatever, and they're like, well, if I do this, but then again, that temptation is even stronger at that point. So then they see you and they're like, dang. And then they just want to ask you out, or they want to flirt and then push the boundaries. And then they could even at that point be manipulating you and being like, oh, well, it was his fault because he was just so much of a horn dog. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what has happened in the past with
Yeah.
me, where it's like they blame me for that, and then it's
like,
yeah.
but you're the one who led me on at that point. You're the one who was pushing the buttons. So really, it's not just me you have to blame. It's you, because it, again, takes two to tango.
right, and they'll never change that because they don't want to hurt women's feelings, and then they're gonna wonder why. Because like I've been wondering why there's more women attending church than men, and now I'm starting to kind of see why. Because it's kind of anti-men.
Yeah.
For the Eastern Orthodox, which
Yeah.
is the church that you belong in.
I just say, I feel like the unfiltered stuff is better because at least you're getting like a better perspective and like,
It is. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's mostly funny, but
Yeah, but there's other people that will look at it and
say
be like,
the saying that she's basically ugly
Yeah.
was a bit harsh.
It was a bit harsh,
But it's done now.
Yeah.
It's out there.
It's just, again, my brain processes things faster, and sometimes stuff just slips out, and I'm like, ooh, that's
sometimes
really bad.
Yeah, sometimes the thoughts are a little faster than the brain.
Yeah, and so then it's like, whoops the daisy, because that wasn't meant to sound like that. It meant to sound something a little bit more.
Yeah, but Stefan, even your thought out response was pretty bad.
It was very bad. I admit that, and I apologize.
There's a lot going on up there, dude.
There is a lot going on up here.
Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is I think that group dating is dumb. And that
Group
one,
dating?
this doesn't have to be a long.
Like the double dates kind of thing? Or
No,
just
double
like-
dates are fine. No, group dating is you're a friend group and you only hang out with the person that you're interested in groups to make sure you're not tempted to do anything. That's a
gotcha.
real thing. I don't think it works.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Because how are you going to have any romantic connection when you're always surrounded by people?
Exactly.
Like it just can't happen. And if you can't be alone anywhere, you have
Right.
a major self-control problem.
Exactly.
I don't
yeah,
think I've
'cause-
ever experienced that anywhere. I don't
I've
think.
just heard about it.
yeah.
Huh.
It's really weird.
It is because you can't be vulnerable with someone when there's other people around. Like having a conversation with just you and I,
Like
it's
we
never
can
gonna
get-
be. It's never gonna be the same as if all three of us are in the room, or like you and I aren't gonna talk about the exact same things
Right.
if Stefan is here.
Right.
Whatever.
We all have our own different things that we feel more comfortable sharing with somebody else.
We're
or-
just like that one person at a time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's
I
not
guess that
going to
would
tell.
make sense. I
He's
don't
not
think
going
it
to
would
tell
work.
me what you guys were talking about, and then you're not going to tell him what me and you talk about, or vice versa. At that
Never.
point.
Never tell you.
So I mean, even though he thinks you're fat, but I mean,
What?
huh? We're gonna move on.
Yeah. So anyway, if you guys have anything else to say about that, or have any other topics, otherwise we can
I honestly
call it quits.
I mean, really, at that point, I don't really think. Again, just I guess finishing off the group dating thing, I think it's just a weird thing, and you can still be tempted at some point because it's just like in typical Hollywood movie fashion, is you can be in a group and it's like, oh, I'm interested in this person, but we're in a group, and then they just scamper off in the beach, and then the shark comes up and eats the girl or whatever in the lake.
All right.
Perfect
just
time to put the plug on this one. Andy, you got
yeah.
anything?
I have nothing on the group setting because I've never experienced it. But as I can see it with all the details, I don't think it would work. Yes, because temptation is still there.
Yep.
And at the same time, like it's also, I think for one, without that romantic connection, it can still cause problems.
Yeah.
Because it's like then you're only looking for the romantic side of things through possible physical contact if you get the chance.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah, because you're not going to be like, hey, let's sneak off and go talk to each other.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like nobody's thinking that way.
No.
Yeah. But I think that's the only thing I can think of. Overall, I don't have any experience with it, so I have no knowledge on it.
Yeah.
All right, well, perfect. That was a great conversation filled with lots of ideas.
Yes, it was.
Everybody,
Stay away from serial killers.
yep, and sharks.
And
And sharks.
Don't go to dates on the beach.
And ugly people.
Oh,
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and have a blessed week. Bye.